What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy, and this is the No Holds podcast, and I am here with Pastor Ray Young. How you doing, sir?
I'm really good. Thanks for letting me be here.
Man, yes, dude, I'm very excited that you're on here. My wife looks up to you because of you've pretty much ran how many days with no stops?
I think it's 1,061 or 2.
Man,
62.
yes.
62 today.
Right before you came, she was like, "Tell Ray, Pastor Ray Young, that I look up to him so much
Well,
because she's a runner, you're a runner.
Awesome.
Of course you're a Cowboys fan. I might not put this on there just because
That's all right. I mean, I can turn it inside out if that helps.
No, but man, just a couple of things like what is it that you do?
Well, you call me a pastor. I tell everybody other churches have a pastor. I'm the pester because I'm better at that than I am pastoring. But yeah, I've been working with the Westside Church here in Seminole for about 7.5 years now. I'm the lead minister there, and so love that. A lot of teaching and preaching, discipleship, leadership development. Those are those are my passions. That's what I love to do.
Yes, sir.
So study a lot and get to teach a lot.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Heck yeah, awesome. And are you from here in Seminole?
Well, I grew up really in Lubbock and Austin. I was in
okay.
Lubbock till like halfway through the 5th grade year. Then we moved to Austin. Lived there till 2 weeks before my junior year. My parents moved our family to Seagraves, which is where my mom grew up, and my grandparents were there and getting older. And they felt like they needed to come and help take care of them, so we moved to Seagraves, which was culture shock for me. I'd gotten used to, my high school had as many people as the whole town of Seagraves.
I bet.
But then, almost. When we moved to Seminole, I don't remember the numbers now, but about since graduating from high school, my first church that let me preach for them was in Plains, and I was in Plains for 9 years, in Denver City for 8, and then been here 7. So Highway 214, man, it's something about it. I'm tied to it. Somebody said, when 214 ends at Seminole, so you either got to go in the ground or start going back north. I don't know which one the Lord has in store, but we'll see.
Oh man, that's good. All right, a couple questions too. Favorite color?
Blue. Not just cowboy blue. Blue all the way.
Just blue all the way.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Man, I mean, if anybody see me, they know that dude loves food. I guess my favorite, I love steak, but probably a close second is actually Thai food.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh, man, it's incredible. I've got friends that live in Thailand. I've got to go visit them, and I like Chinese food, but Thai food's a level up, man. and I like spicy stuff, and so Thai spicy's a little bit different, and I just love it.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. What about a talent that you have that nobody knows about?
Man, that's a stumper.
If you don't have one, then
I don't know that I've got one. I kind of have to go
with.
with, if God gave me a talent, I want to figure out and use it. And so most of mine, I hope every talent I've got's put out there somewhere.
Nice.
So I don't think I've got any hidden talents. I'll try anything,
Yeah.
and I'll always think I can do it. So
There you go. Hey, that's good.
that's either a talent or Achilles heel. I don't know which one.
I think that's good because a lot of people are scared to just go out and try things, but to do that, I mean, I think that's perfect. Yeah. Yes, sir. Right. The best advice you've ever received?
Probably the most impactful advice, and it came straight from Jesus. It's one of those things that you hear. I mean, I guess if you grow up going to church, you've heard it, you can quote it, but really, probably the most impactful was treat other people the way you want to be treated,
Yes,
and that's just for probably 10, 15 years, just been one of those deals. I thought but why don't you do it? Mm-hmm. And so when you really just start, it makes things a lot easier.
Yes,
Any
sir.
Situation you're not sure what to do. Well, if I was on the other side of this, how would I want somebody to treat me?
Yeah.
That is not at all a claim that I do that perfectly, but it is that it's that compass. It's like in relationships, there's so many challenges and things can go really well and they can be a real addition to your life, and sometimes relationships can be a real drain on your life, and they're everywhere in between, and there's all kinds of things that come up. But that one thing, probably the most impactful was. This thought of what if you actually did what Jesus said to do?
Oh, man.
There's a novel idea,
Yes, sir.
So that's best advice I've ever gotten is treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes, sir. And I believe that 100%. That's awesome. Yeah. Worst advice you've ever received?
Do what makes you happy. I love to be happy and full of joy, but I think there's a lot of stuff out there. People saying, you got to follow your heart.
Yes, sir.
But I read one time in the book says your heart's deceitful above all things, and I think God puts some passions in our heart, and those things line up with Him. But if my heart's not in tune with Him, and I follow my heart, it sure gets me in trouble.
Yes, sir. Oh man.
Yeah, it causes lots of trouble for me and others. So that's probably worst advice.
That's good. Very good. If you can go back and talk to your teenage self, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing for me would be, and it's one of the things I love to talk to people about, is you're capable of a whole lot more than you think you are. So go ahead. I mean, I love your no holds. I feel like most of my life I was holding back, afraid to risk, afraid to be exposed to, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I'm not as good or as capable as other people think I am. And so really holding back from that. And I just wonder what would have happened if, whether we're talking about academically, I did, I was National Honor Society, but it wasn't because I was a great student. It's because it was easy. And athletics, I was, I was in sports. I played football and basketball, but I just wonder, what could you have done if you really dug deep and found out what you were really capable of? And so if I could go back, that's what I'd say is you're capable of more, push harder. There's more there. Quit holding back.
Yes, sir. Man, that's good. Yes, sir. Man, that's some real good advice, man. I think that even hits me today. Like right now, that's...
It's one thing I tell my kids primarily, but then I tell people every time I got a chance, if you believed in you half as much as I believe in you, you'd believe in you at least twice as much as you do. Because I think there are just so many voices in our world which are powerful, but the ones that we start listening to and they become our own voice that says, don't risk it, don't try it, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not rich enough, you don't come from the right family, you don't have the right resources. There's just this constant attack. And I think it's the enemy pulling us back and saying, play small. Don't get out there. Don't risk it. What if? Well, what if? It's okay. Yeah. But we get in there, so it really holds us back, I think. And I have a reminder every morning, and it's my screensaver for my phone that says, "What are you capable of?"
Oh, wow.
And the truth is, I've surprised myself because it's like I don't think I can do that, but I'm not going to quit, and I can. It's like, you finished it. It may not have been as good as I wanted it to be. It never is. It's like, I want to be better at this. I want to be better at that. Every time I deliver a message, I go, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said this. Every time I go on a run, I wish the run was faster. I wish, whatever it is, it's always room for improvement. But that doesn't mean we don't give what we got here. And I think that's the key is we're capable of so much more if we just believe and we'd start and not stop.
Yeah.
Because I think that just getting over, it's the rocket ship. It burns almost all its fuel breaking out of the gravitational pull. And once it's broken the gravitational pull, then, it can just soar and go so well it doesn't burn much fuel. And I think that's where we are. We just get stuck. It's comfortable. It's what we know. We may not like it, but changing's hard.
Yeah.
And breaking that gravitational pull, doing something new, something different is hard to do. But once you do, if you'll push through, there'll be some challenges. There is that pull, but once you break through, I think incredible things can happen.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's, yeah.
Wow. I hope you got that. I hope y'all got that, guys. That's a powerful message right there. That spoke to me. Like, thank you. Wow. That is powerful. Man, you remind me of a Christian David Goggins.
Man, I wish.
Dude.
I think I wish. Some of his mindset, I'm like, there ain't no way I want to be like that. Wow. But I do think there is that just, for me, the biggest one is running marathons. People ask me why I became a runner, and it's real simple. My daughter, I think she was a sophomore time, maybe even a freshman. She came in one morning. She's in cross country, and she comes in one morning, wakes us up, says, "See y'all later. I'm going to practice." And it's the first time I thought, "Hey, who are you running with?" And she responded like that was the dumbest question today. But she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's a simple question. Who are you running with?" And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Reagan, when you go run, who else is running? What other athletes?" She said, "Dad, everybody else is in afternoon practice, but I can't because of some other activity she was part of." And I said, "Well, does Coach run with you?" "No." I said, "Well, does he come check on you?" She said, "No, I meet him at the gym and I go run and, then I come back and clean up." And I was like, whatever that is, 14, 15-year-old daughter's running around town at 6 o'clock in the morning by herself.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. So I said, hold on just a second. I put on shorts. I'd lost weight down to 254 pounds. I'd lost, 21 pounds. So I'm following her in my Suburban. And the next morning she goes and she's running, and I'm thinking, man, you got to get off your lazy tail and run. But I can't run with her. And so I'd start, she had a square. I'd drive to the first corner, and I'd run, walk, crawl, whatever, till I could see her, and I'd turn, and I'd just do it back and forth till I could keep her in view the whole time. And I got hooked. And then, started running. It's like, I want to run a 5K. And then I thought, there's no way. I can't ever run a 5K. And now, I think this year I'm averaging about 5 miles a day, every day.
Oh, wow.
It varies every day. But
yeah.
And so what I thought was like, man, that's the biggest goal. And so you step up. I want to do a 10K, and then you step up. I want to do a half. And now I've run, 2 full marathons and been disappointed with them. But there's this point, wherever it is, that you say, I can't do this. I can't take another step. And, I got 13 miles to go. Looking at my watch, I'm halfway, and I'm shot. What are you going to do? You're going to fold up? You're going to say, pick me up and take me? Or are you going to keep stepping? And if you just take one more step and one more step and one more step. Now, you talk about something to preach. There you go. Whatever it is. If it's resisting temptation, all you got to do is say no one more time.
Yeah.
If it's moving forward, I want to grow in this area. And I think that's part of it. We get stuck in, well, I want to grow, but I want to be better. I want to be a better husband. If you're married, you want to be a better husband.
Yes,
if you're
sir.
a parent, you want to be a better parent. But we just say, I want to be that. But if you don't start, the best, and you never stay status quo. You never stay right here. You're either growing and improving, or it's diminishing.
Wow.
And so, that deal of, I wish I had part of that David Goggins. I think some of it's, I think we're all crazy, but he's got a special kind of crazy. But just that deal of saying, I'm not going to stop no matter what.
Yes,
I'm going to
sir.
keep on. And I think that's the difference maker. That's what we're capable of. And we never know till we get in that situation where we have to push.
Wow. Yeah.
So.
Man, that's awesome. You had said you were 254 pounds?
Yeah,
So how
I
much
got
do you weigh?
I got to 275. Little brag here. You discipline yourself, and then same deal. You kind of get your eye off the prize. You're like, man, I like food. I'm a foodie, and so I'd let it get back up. I weigh right now the least I've weighed since December 17th, 2015. So I'm tilting the scale at 190 right now, and plan to be at 180. I'm gonna if we get to have the Chicago Marathon in October, I'm signed up for it.
Nice.
And so that's my goal I'm trying to build a good foundation, get mileage up and weight down, so it's a little easier. And so there I am.
Man, well,
But
how old are you?
51.
You look good.
25
bro.
at least,
Yeah,
right?
you-
At
you
least
look
every bit of
good.
25.
Yes, no, man. And say 254 to 190.
190. Yeah.
Wow, dude, impressive.
Well, thanks.
Yes, sir,
It's same
man.
deal. We talk about diet like it's hard. It's not hard. The discipline, that's the key. If you just, and I'm going to say no now. Now, I've got the kind of mindset that what I've got to do is I can't be passive, and I can't cheat a little bit. I'm either all in or I'm all out.
Yes, sir.
People talk about like a diet or whatever. Well, I fell off the wagon. I don't fall off the wagon. When I get off the wagon, I jump and run, and so I can gain 6 pounds in a day. Unfortunately, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But I've got to it's the discipline. And if you just say no, and for me, the more intensity you bring to it, the bigger difference it is. If it's like, I don't really want to, but it probably won't hurt, I'm going to put on some pounds. And if I say, no, this is a fight and I'm not losing this one, then it works.
Yes, sir.
You just got to do what you got to do.
Yes, sir. I know I tried a diet not too long ago, the carnivore diet. I did it for a month, and man, the first couple of days I wanted to stop because I had the biggest headache. Of course, no sugars, it's just meat and water. I wanted to quit. Towards the middle of it, I was like, man, I think I got this.
Yeah.
I think I can do this. And I finished the whole 30 days, and I felt amazing.
Yeah, it's a breakthrough. Once you get there, you go, oh, I can do that.
Yep.
It's no problem.
Yeah, and it's, man, I loved it. Of course, I got off of it, and then, just like you said, I took off running with that food, and like, dang it.
Man, I missed that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, man. Well, I want to hear about your testimony. I want to know who who you are, who Pastor Ray Young is.
Pester.
There you
Yeah.
Pastor Ray
If
Young.
you knew me well, you'd say that's probably the most fitting title anybody's
You know,
ever
I've actually
received.
heard nothing but good things from you. I know, you know Pastor Mike Navarro.
Mm-hmm.
He is actually one of my probably best friends. And he says he sees you, I guess, at the coffee shop sometime.
That's my office.
Yeah. And that you'll just kind of, I guess he'll be reading something. You'll ask him what he's reading, and it's like, you know, I mean, just right off the bat, like, what scripture? Like, oh, I know this and that. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, man. And he was like, yeah. He goes, have you never talked to Pastor Ray Young? I said, no, I've never met him or anything. He said, dude, you should talk to him.
Well, if anybody's telling you good stuff, they don't know the whole story. But I appreciate it. Like I said, I grew up in Lubbock and Austin. My parents were, you know, they were believers. My grandparents, my great-grandparents. I have memories of, you know, when I was a little kid sitting in church and looking down the aisle, or, you know, down the pew, and everybody's there. My sister, my mom, my dad, uncles and aunts, grandparents, great-grandparents. And, you know, so I grew up going to church, and that's probably pretty accurate. When we moved to Austin, you know, I was 5th grade, but really in junior high, well, 6th grade, I guess maybe, I don't know, 5th grade, 6th grade, we started going to a Christian school there in Austin. And so we're getting Bible every day, and you know, became a leader in my youth group, and then preached my first sermon when I was in 8th grade, and our youth minister left. So me and a couple other buddies are like, man, we could do this. I mean, they just, you know, kind of dropped us. So we started doing devotionals and planning retreats and stuff like that.
Nice.
But when we moved to Seagraves, which I was like, in fact, I told when my folks told me, I'm like, I'm not going. You don't have a choice, you know. It's like you're 16 and you'll either move with me, you're a minor, or I'm going to have you moved into a boys' home because you're not going to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And so here we come, and what I figured out there was, and really it was more a couple of years there, and then probably that first year out of high school, I thought, you know, what are you doing? You know better than that. I don't know how many times I would do something, and then, you know, guilt would set in, and I'd talk to myself and go, you know, what are you doing? You know better than that. You believe better than that. And I concluded that what I had was more what I call now a parasite faith. You know, in Austin, I was part of a big youth group. I mean, we had 14 different high schools represented in our youth group. I was with other believers. I mean, there was a couple of buddies. We went to work, church, and school together. We were just together all the time. Yeah. You know, we're playing basketball, we're hiking, we're going, you know, there's all the water or mountain climbing. And so I love the outdoors. We're doing that all the time. And, you know, I thought, this is great. And then I'm kind of pulled out of there, and basically it was my sister and I, and then the preacher's 3 kids. And I tell my kids all the time, you just need to know nobody likes preacher's kids. And they're like, oh, but so, and we moved there, and so without that atmosphere around me, you know, I was thinking about Hebrews 12 this morning. It says we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses, and so he encourages us to run the race with our eyes fixed on Jesus. I didn't think about it for now, but maybe God was preparing me for this. I think, you know, who we surround ourselves with is so powerful.
Oh, yes, sir.
And what I had to conclude about me was I was good at living off my youth group's faith, or my parents' faith, or my youth minister. And as long as I was with the right folks, you know, it's easy. I knew the answers. I knew, you know, you asked the question, I got the answer. I can give you the verse. I could do all that. But it wasn't my faith. And so I really had to struggle through that and say, you know, what do you really believe? I mean, do you believe because that's what your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your uncles and aunts and dogs and cats and everybody you know believe? What do you believe in? I mean, let's just start with God. Is he real? You know, is Jesus, is that real, or is that like the stuff you see on TV? You go to the movie and you get scared and you go, it's just a movie. It's not real. Is the Bible, you know, is that a real deal? And, you know, sadly at that time, I didn't even know what to think about spirit. And so really struggled and went to, you know, what do I believe? Is there a God? And so literally, you know, I'll admit talking to myself, some people get uncomfortable with that. I figure we're all crazy, so let's just admit it. But I talk to myself and I answer and everything else. And so it's like, you know, do you really believe that this God thing's real? You believe that he's real? You know, that he created everything? Do you believe the Bible's his word? Do you believe in Jesus? And really, the more I've come to it, I think I tell people now, if you'll be honest about Jesus, you know, whether you take scripture or not, you can say, I don't believe anything in the Bible. If you'll just be honest about Jesus, I can get you to the rest. Because if Jesus is a real man And anybody who says that he's not is either ignorant of the facts or they're denying on purpose, because there's a real man named Jesus. He was of Nazareth. He might have been, some people said he's a miracle worker. Some people said he was a trickster. He really said some stuff, and it's recorded in all kinds of history, and they killed him. And there was an empty tomb. Now, there's lots of argument about what happened at the empty tomb, but the most reasonable thing is what Scripture says. Because his friends didn't haul off his dead body and then die for a lie. His enemies wanted him dead, so they didn't say, hey, he's raised from the dead. If they did, Acts chapter 2, when Peter says, y'all killed Jesus, the Son of God, and God raised him from the dead, and he's trying to start this movement that they spend hundreds of years trying to kill, then, the Jews drag the dead body out and go, there's your risen Lord. What about your deal now? So his friends didn't steal his body. The enemies didn't steal his body, and he was dead. So he's raised from the dead. And so if Jesus really is resurrected from the dead, then he is who he said he is. You can trust what he said. And if he says there's a God who created everything in 7 days, then I'm going to buy that. If I was talking to somebody this morning, said we sit here and I think sometimes we try to bring God down to our level. Well, that'd be hard. I mean, that'd be hard for God.
Yeah.
What's hard for a God who says light be, wham, and it just happens. From my perspective, that'd be hard. From his, that's nothing. That's easy. How long did it take God to figure it out? About a nanosecond. I mean, he's God. And so I had to really go by. So then if you believe God's God, act like it. Live like it. What's that mean? Nice. And, so for me it was, well, if God's God, then I'm going to recognize he's above me. He knows what I don't know. He understands what I don't understand. What he says is better than what I say. So I want to listen to him. And then... it's a journey, and it still is. I'm going to listen to him, but I don't want to just hear it.
Yeah.
I want to listen to him and do what he said.
Yes, sir.
And so that was one of those. I think we had those breakthrough moments in our lives that it's like everything changes. And so that one I think is foundational to say, is this a social thing for me? Is this an expectation thing for me? Is this it's the way I was raised? And if I wouldn't have been raised in a Christian home, if I was raised in a Muslim home, would I be a Muslim? If I was raised by Buddhists, would I be a Buddhist? If I was raised by... Well, I checked it out. I checked Jesus out. And I believe he is Son of God. I believe there is a God. I believe the Bible's inspired and you count on every word. And then later as I'm doing that, I find out, hey, they're not just there, Spirit's right here. And so I think that was one of those breakthroughs. And so that was, like 19, 20 years old, probably 18, 19, because I had always kind of had this thought of I'd want to be in ministry. Like I said, I got to preach that first sermon in 8th grade. And, it has to be certified somewhere as the world's worst sermon ever. Here's a message from God. It's like, I don't know if there's much God in that one. But, just... So, about a year and a half out of high school, went to a ministry training school in Lubbock and, grew through that, really impacted one of my teachers there. It was the first time I really felt like, that Jesus on the page, he's a real guy. And so he's got real emotions. He's like me. He understands. I mean, he knows what it's like to be tired. He knows what it's like for people to be after you. He knows what it's like, everything. So when I'm feeling those things, he knows what it's like to be betrayed. He knows what it's like. And so knowing that, it's like, he's not just some guy you read about. And, that guy always talked about, when I was little, they'd have, in our Bible classes, they had these boards that were flannel graph. And so there's flannel on the board, and they'd stick these people up there, and Jesus was flannel graph, and no matter what's going on, he's flat, and he had the same look on his face, and he's not real. And so getting to see the real Jesus and know the real Jesus and love the real Jesus, and that was a huge change. And so went through that. That was 88, 89, and clicked along pretty well. For several years, and then there just came this point where I was just sick of everything. I hated everything about my life. I didn't think I was a very good husband. I didn't think I was a very good father. I didn't think I was a very good minister.
Was there like an incident that happened to make you think that way? Or
No, just there wasn't anything that happened. It was just this I guess from one perspective, you could look at my life and go, he's got a pretty good life. He lives in a nice house. He's got nice clothes. He drives nice cars. I came home one day and told my wife, I grew up, my dad's in the car business and the insurance business, and I've always loved Corvettes. So I came home one day, I'm like 20-something, maybe 30. And I said, babe, I think I'm having a midlife crisis. And she said, what? I said, I think I'm having a midlife crisis. She said, what do you mean? I said, I think I need to buy a Corvette. She said, you buy a Corvette and I'll give you a midlife crisis. But I just kind of went through that for a while where I'm just like, something's got to change. And like I said, it just part of the raising, I think, you learn some bad habits. And I used to think that excused it. Well, my dad was this. And so, my dad was angry and he was irrational and he was hard. And so I just learned that from him, and that's just the way I'm going to be. And there's nothing I can do about it. And, sooner or later you got to own your own stuff. And so, I don't know if you know much about the personality profiles. There's, INEJ, and they do all those. I tell people my personality profile is JERK. I mean, it's just jerk. I can be the worst, and I can be quick-tempered and quick-word and biting, and even when I'm happy, people think I'm mad. And I'm like, how's that possible? I'm in a great mood. But I went through there, and finally, I can remember it like it was this Monday morning. It was a Monday morning. I went to my office, and I just said, "What are you going to change? I'm not going to live like this anymore. What are you going to change?" And I'm thinking everything. I'm thinking my wife would be better off not married to me. My kids would be better off if they had somebody else as a father. This church would be better off if they had somebody else leading them. There's better preachers, better teachers, better leaders. And it's just like, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And, it's kind of embarrassing, but finally I thought, God's got to have something to say to people like me. And so I pulled out the Bible. The Bible's at my office right now. Same one, and I opened it up, and it's one of those, it just fell open to Matthew chapter 6. So I read it, and he says, don't worry about your life. Don't worry about what you're going to eat or drink. Don't worry about where you're going to live. And I read that, and he ends by saying, seek first his kingdom, the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all this will be added to you. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that helped, but that's not it. There's something more. And then I tell people now, for some reason, quotation marks, because I don't think it's accident, I just say, I want to read Ecclesiastes. And I know I'd read Ecclesiastes. I'm sure somebody taught or preached it before, but I had zero memory of anything in it. So I open it up and I start reading. And I'm like, that dude's writing about me. He says, from the very beginning, he asked this question, what does it profit a man from all that he does under the sun? He talks about how life just goes on. The sun rises, the sun sets. The wind blows this way and the wind blows that way. The rain falls and it evaporates. And he goes through all this, and he starts, from the very beginning, he says, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. It's utterly meaningless. It doesn't have any value. It doesn't have any purpose. Life just goes on. And everything the guy, the teacher or preacher there says, I'm going to do this. He's like, man, I'm looking for life. My life's got to be more than this. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be I'm going to be smarter than anybody else. So, I'm the smartest dude around. And it was meaningless. I'm going to have more riches than anybody else. And the remarkable thing is everything he tries, he accomplishes. I'm going to be the richest dude around, and he's the richest. I'm going to have the biggest house, and he gets the house. I'm going to have the nicest gardens. I'm going to have my own. Forget this little backyard, deal I'm looking for. I want a nice pergola and outdoor kitchen and a swimming pool. No, he builds his own lake, man. He's got everything, and he goes, it's meaningless. I've tried being wise. I'm gonna see how I'm gonna walk the line. I'm gonna be as foolish as possible while still not losing my mind. And that was meaningless. And I'm going to get drunk. I'm just going to drink and party all the time. Party, that's what I need to do. If I have the biggest and the best parties and the best wine, and it's meaningless. Well, I'm going to have all the women, and he has all the women. I'm going to have a servant, so everything I don't want to do, somebody else, and it's meaningless. And he goes through the whole thing. And I'm like, the stuff that I want to chase after, he got, and it's meaningless. And so you read I read the first 3 chapters, read the whole thing, but The first pursuit in the book of Ecclesiastes, the first thing he sets his heart on that he can't grasp, that he can't have, he can't accomplish, is to understand God. And he says, I think it's 3:10, he says that God has set eternity in the hearts of men in such a way they can't fathom all that God's done from beginning to end. And you skip down a couple of verses, he says he's worked in this way so that men would fear him. And if you get in the kind of this mode, he does this and it's meaningless. He does this and it's meaningless, and he goes through it, and it's the first time he doesn't accomplish it, and it's not meaningless. And so the pursuit of God is the only thing that gives meaning, value, purpose to life. And so, literally, I don't know for how long, probably 3 or 4 months, I read Ecclesiastes every day. And I had to be honest with myself and say the problem is not all that stuff. The problem is you're not chasing after God. God's kind of a convenience. He's an addition to your life. He fits in. You're a Christian. You grew up in a Christian nation. Here you are, a preacher, but you're not even pursuing God. And the truth was no. I'm good at talking about God. I'm good at telling people about God.
Wow.
But to pursue Him, to chase after Him like He's all that matters because He's all that matters, no, I wouldn't. And so, that became this wham. And as far as change in my life, that first one of, do you really believe God? That was huge. This one was even bigger to say. Because when you chase after God, then I know how to relate to all that other stuff. I know where it fits in or it doesn't fit into my life. But if I'm not chasing after God, then here comes my heart again telling me this is what you want. You deserve this, and this will make you better. And, I can't wait till I get this, and then my life's going to be better. When I do that, but I don't have it all together. And you do all that, and you go, it's either the target's always moving, or you get there and it's not as good as you thought it'd be, or it's worse, or it just stinks. And so that was a huge, man. And so as far as changes in my life, that was the biggest one, to just say life is all about chasing after God. And if you're not pursuing Him 100%, if you're holding anything back, you're missing out. Oh. And so to the degree that I'm chasing after God, that my eyes are fixed on Him, I can see it in my life. When I'm doing that, it works. My life works. And what doesn't work, I'm like, okay, I can handle that. If you take everything else away, but I still got God, I'm a winner. Oh, yeah. If I get everything else, but I'll lose Him, everybody else may go, that dude's winning in life, but the truth is, it stinks. All you got to do is pull up the news reports from, Hollywood or wherever for the last several years, and these people that were like, man, I'd trade places with him in a heartbeat. I'd trade places with her. They got the perfect life. They've got fame. They got riches. They got all the cars. They got all the houses. They go anywhere. They do anything. And then they kill themselves. Mm-hmm. And people are scratching their heads going, what? I don't understand. And I go, I don't know them, but best I can tell, they're not chasing God. And if you're not chasing God, your life's going to stink. And so there've been other times like that. Probably I tell people my favorite books are, the Gospel of John. I love the Gospel of John, but Ecclesiastes and Philippians. Somebody told me Philippians is the Ecclesiastes of the New Testament. It's the same message. Paul says, one thing I do, forgetting what's behind and striving for what's ahead, I press on toward the goal for the upper call of God in Christ Jesus my Lord. And so it's that just single focus that, I'm chasing Jesus, and I want to be like Jesus. I'm not there yet. He says, I want to know Him. I want to know the power of His resurrection. I want to share in His sufferings. I want to die like Him. And I'm like, suffering? Die? I don't know about that. I'm not afraid of dying, but let's go the easy way. Let's go comfortable. But those are probably the biggest changes in my life and my discipleship is what do you really believe, and then do you believe enough to chase God all the way?
And how old were you when this happened? Because you just mentioned too. I guess you were married and you had a
married and 2 kids. So the kind of faith crisis is. I said 99. It was. I know exactly when it was. It was 98. So I was 30 years old. I was born in 68. So I was actually probably 29 and a half. Midlife crisis. 20. At that point, I thought it made sense. And then, so that's when I'm sitting there and I'm reading Ecclesiastes and just grabs hold of me. So I'm 29 years old, I'd love to say, man, I got that lesson and I ain't never dropped it, boy. I've been like just laser focused ever since. But truth is, sometimes I go, you got to be the dumbest man alive. How in the world could you know that and then still take your eyes off? How could you slow down or stop chasing? Mm-hmm. And yet, sometimes I do. And so it is good to, when I get there, I go, all right, I know what's up. I know what's going on. When I feel the discontentment in my life rise, whether it's people or things or whatever, sometimes it takes me a few days to go, something's up there. What's wrong? And I know to come back to, how's your relationship with God? What are you doing? And so it's become a good barometric pressure. What's going on in my life, in my walk, to bring me back there.
Yeah. What age did you? How old were you when you got married?
I was 18.
18.
Yeah, we got married August after I graduated from high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So graduated May the 24th, 1987, and got married August the 8th, 1987. 32 and a half years. So actually a little more than that because this is 5. So in 3 months it'll be 33. Lord willing that He waits. Jesus waits to come back. It'll be 33 years in August.
Awesome, man! Yeah. Congratulations.
Got 2 daughters. One of them's about to finish up her physical therapy assistant. She's graduated with all this deal. She was supposed to have finished her clinicals. They let her graduate, but she still got work to do. Hopefully she can start that in a couple of weeks and be done. And then the youngest one teaches. Well, she just finished up teaching Spanish in Denver City. She and her husband are moving to Mexico City to be missionaries July the 15th.
Nice.
Nice. I don't know, man. It's this going to all the world thing. That's great for other. I've been telling people a long time. Yeah, going to all the world. That's what Jesus said. But when your own kids are going, you're like,
well, yeah, it's got to be.
No, it is. I mean, I'm proud of them. I'm as proud as I can be. But there's that. I'm selfish. She goes running with me 4 or 5 times a week, and Christian will go with me several times too. Her husband and it's like, man, I'm gonna miss that. But it's the words that Jesus spoke to Peter. When Jesus says, "I'm going to Jerusalem, they're gonna arrest me and try me and kill me," and Peter takes him aside and says, "No, Lord, that'll never happen to you." And Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan. You got your mindset on the things of men, not the things of God." And I can't tell you how many times I've rehearsed that in my head and said, "It's not about you. It's not about what you want. This is bigger." And so I don't want to be in the way of what God wants to do.
Yeah.
Or I don't completely want to be in the way. I mean, there's honesty. I won't hold back. I'll tell you the truth. Part of me really wants to say, nah, y'all just stay here. There's lots of folks who don't know the Lord here. But they believe God wants them there, so that's what they're going to do.
No, that's awesome, man. Have you and your wife, y'all ever been mission trips? Any mission trips?
Yeah, this will be the first year in, man, I don't know how long that we've not taken a group somewhere. We had a group scheduled for June the 11th. The last several years we've taken people to Belize. We go to Belize, Honduras, Bolivia, Mexico, South Africa. I mean, we've taken folks all kinds of places. Yeah. Nice. And so, we're really sad about that. But, this has been a time that's reminded us we're not in control.
Yeah.
So we just hang on, see what the Lord has.
Oh, yeah. So during this time, during this pandemic, like what has God been doing in your life? What has He been telling you? What is something that maybe you've been preparing for? So whenever everything does open up.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think you can look back and see the hindsight's 2020. Towards the end of last year, I was really convicted that I wasn't as good a leader as I needed to be, and definitely I knew I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And primarily, it's what I call just take ultimate responsibility. I think we grow up, our world says, I want to pass responsibility to everybody else. I get caught doing something, well, I got somebody to blame. Or I was just tired. Or, well, my dad this, or my mom that, or, this, you said this, or, whatever. It's like I got no responsibility for anything. And I think that's, I tell people all the time, one of my favorite Greek words is baloney. Some of them are like, I didn't know that was Greek. Well, there's a reason you didn't know that. But that'd be the Greek word for it. It's baloney. It's not in the Greek, y'all, but it's pretty accurate. And so I've really tried to buy into this ultimate responsibility. And I'm going to take responsibility for myself. And so, I'm looking, I like to evaluate. So I look at, at my own life and the opportunities God's given me, and then look at the church, and I think our church is doing well. But there's lots of things. I had higher hopes and aspirations for 2019, and I caught myself saying, well, if they would have done this and so would have done that, and then finally I'm like, you know what? If you're the leader, that falls on you. If people aren't stepping up and leading, if they're not being active in ministry, if they're not growing in these ways, and you're the leader, then somehow that's got to come back to you. I know people are individually responsible for themselves, but as a leader, I bear some of that responsibility too. And so I really made a commitment at the end of last year that I wanted to grow as a leader. And I kind of felt like, I topped out there. I said to myself, you're doing everything you can, which, there's a word for that. It's not baloney. It'd be true, but that's just a lie. There's, when we're doing everything we can, we're not. There's still more to do. But what I decided to do was, John Maxwell's a man of faith and one of the leadership gurus of our time. And he's got a mentoring program. So I entered it and was, primarily I want to grow as a leader, but then also I think there's responsibility of developing leaders. So those two things work together well. And so I really felt, looking back and during this time, I feel like God was preparing me to lead well. You never know what's in somebody else's heart, but I think a lot of decisions that have been made during this time have been reactions instead of responses. They've been overreactions. I feel like they've been fear motivated and not faith motivated. I think there's been a lot of decisions. Again, I don't know because I'm not part of those big decisions, but I feel like a lot of them have been made out of expectation of what somebody else would say, think, or do about it, instead of, I think that there's just a difference there. And so when we finally decided, okay, we're not going to meet this Sunday, and put it out on social media and everything else, I had a guy that I didn't even know him, but he jumps on my Facebook and he says, "What about all that faith?" Because I try to encourage people and put out little videos and stuff. He says, "What about all that faith you're always talking about?" And I don't know if you're on social media much. I noticed that the comments, I try to stay away from all the comments because there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of foolishness and arguing, endless debates, as Paul would talk to Timothy about there. So I try to just stay out of that. And I usually don't respond to that kind of stuff, but I did respond to that, and I said, my faith is exactly where it's always been. My faith squarely in God. I have absolute trust in Him, but I do think I've got a responsibility to love. So it's about faith and love and responsibility and wisdom. And so during the whole time, for me personally, I've had, zero fear. I'm like, if it's my time, ain't nothing going to stop it.
Yeah.
If God's ready for Ray's going. And it could be COVID. It could be somebody running over me while I'm running. It could be a car wreck. It could be, sleep apnea, I guess what they call it. I just quit breathing in the middle of the night. I mean, when it's my time, I'm gone. And it doesn't matter how it comes or who's involved. And if it's not my time, I'm not going. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what. They can run over me as I'm running. And I'm going to make it through. It may be painful, but I'm going to be all right. And so for me personally, I've had no fear. But the love for others is, I've got a lot of people that I love who do have serious health conditions. And, there's been so much excessive information. In my impression, a lot of it's been not accurate. I don't know about motives for all that. But there's been so many things that said, and then, they have to come back later and say, well, it's not this, it may be that. But with all that information, it's felt like, so I don't know, but the most loving thing I can do for you is not expose you to that. And so I'm going to love you, and I'm going to love you. This is, Philippians 2. I'm going to put your best interest above my own. So in the whole time, we've not done what I wanted to do. I told him the only thing that's changed for me is I'm working harder, and I can't see who's sleeping through my sermons and my Bible classes because they're not there. I don't have two-way on the, there's nobody in the auditorium or nobody in the classroom. But love for people says I'm gonna do what's best for you, even if it's not what I like best. The responsibility is, if I'm a leader, I am responsible for people, and the first move is to put people first. It's the first priority, and so I want to do what's best for the majority. And then wisdom says, what if it is that bad? What if you do? What if it's just, I got a list of people that they're part of our church family, that their health is compromised, and I'm saying I'm not willing to risk that. I don't think it's loving. I don't think it's wise or responsible for me to say we're going to do this anyway, and you better show up. And if you die, well, so I think that some growth as a leadership and perspective has been helpful for me, and then to encourage that. And so I've been able to. I've been doing some weekly teachings, virtually, get people on Zoom, and weekly teaching, trying to encourage and equip leaders. Not just this one, because one of the things we talk about is, nearly every single year there's been a crisis.
Oh, yeah.
You go back to 1999, the world's losing their mind because Y2K, everything's coming to an end. And you've just got one virus. It's, H1N1. It's, the swine flu. It's this pandemic. It's this crash. It's this. There's always a crisis. Mm-hmm. And, it's not Solomon in Scripture, but the same Solomon is quoted in secular history of saying, this too shall pass. And so it's not going to last. It's a time. And, I think often about Peter and the storm. When we're in challenging times, they're out there losing their mind. Jesus is walking on the water. Peter sees him and, hey, if that's you, tell me to come to you on the water. And I wonder if he got the words out of his mouth and then went, oh man, he's going to say, come on. and I can't, you can't see Jesus' face, but I got to believe Jesus smiles and says, come on, big boy. Yeah. And here comes Peter sliding out of the boat, and he walks on water. He does the impossible until, he looks at the storm and not Jesus. Yeah. And so that's been my constant encouragement is, there's a storm. I don't know how bad it is, but I know the clouds are dark and the thunder and lightning is great. There's a lot of wind blowing, and it can get your eyes off of him. But if you even when the clouds are the darkest, the sun's shining. You may not be able to see it, but the sun's still shining. And so for us, that S-O-N, Son of God, still shining. He's still sitting on the throne. He's still ruling. And so whatever he brings, it may not be what we want, but he knows what's best. We've got some promises. We know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose.
Amen.
Now, it's best illustration I heard of that is my wife is, she's a cook extraordinaire. She's a great baker. Her cinnamon rolls are world famous. World famous. But I've never gone in when she's mixing the flour and, the grease and the yeast and all that and got... Man, I can't wait. I've never reached in there and got a handful of flour and started eating it and said, man, that's good. Because the ingredients, the pieces by themselves aren't good. But, and I think this is the deal, you mix them together in just the right measurements, and you give it some time, and you give it some heat, some pain, and what comes out is a great product.
Wow.
And so in the midst, you may look at all these little pieces in my life, where, whether we're talking about here or this pandemic, or just in general, you can look at all the individual pieces and say, I don't like that at all. That's not good. That flour by itself is terrible. And yeast, why would you want to eat that? And, a spoonful of Crisco, I'm out. Yeah. But you mix it together and you give it some time and you give it some heat. And then what comes out of the oven? And you're like, I don't know, but I'm about to drool. You hadn't even had her cinnamon rolls, but I can see it. You're like, I'm off the wagon, brother. Let's eat. Bring me some of that.
We can pause this real quick.
Let's pause. I've got some over the house. She's tempting me with that stuff. But I think that's it, is to say, you don't have to like all the pieces, but you could trust God to be working in it. And either he's telling you the truth or he's not. If he's not telling you the truth, quit listening to him. But he always tells the truth. And so he says, I'll take all of this. Your best and your worst, your ups and your downs and everything in between. And trust me, it will be good. And it'll be so much better than anything you could come up with. And so I think those are that, just keep looking at that. Don't look just right here at the storm. Back to Hebrews 12. I didn't know God was preparing me for right now on this our podcast. But he says, run this race, fixing your eyes on Jesus. And he said, consider him who endured that hostility. Jesus went through all that, who for the joy set before him endured the cross and despised the shame. The cross is terrible. He's sweating drops of blood. But he doesn't just look at that. He looked past it and said, you know what this goes through? And whatever suffering, anytime I look at suffering in Scripture, I have to say about Ray, I'm a baby. I'm a sissy. I have something little happen in my life, and I'm like, oh, woe is me. What did I do to deserve this? How can I get out of this problem? Why can we make it end? And then I read about, let's just scale back. Jesus is, he's Jesus. Let's talk about, Peter and John are arrested, or the apostles in Acts chapter 5, they're beaten, and they go on their way rejoicing. They're considered worthy to suffer shame for their name. They're like, man, we're enough like Jesus. They're beating us. This is awesome. And I'd be like, Lord, what'd you do this to me for? And so, but all that suffering, he's using all of it. And they're not looking at the suffering. They keep their eyes on God and how's God going to use this? I don't know exactly, but I know he's going to use it.
Yeah.
And whatever he uses is good. And so I think that's important for us, because whether it's this global crisis or just a crisis, in my home, in my heart and mind, crises are all the same. They come in a lot of different forms. I told somebody, lemons come in lots of different ways. That means there's limitless ways to make lemonade. There's all kinds of problems, but God's got all kinds of solutions.
Oh man,
so,
amen.
Oh
yeah, no, amen to that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't even know what to say after that.
So let's go sickle, man.
Wow,
Yeah.
like that is, man, I love that. Man, I can't even drink some water. I'll put it back. It's like I want to hear some more. Man, you talking about suffering. I had heard something about you breaking your back.
Yeah, so I think it's 2011 or 12. I think it started running with Reagan. That's Ray again. I'm Ray, she's Ray again. Unfortunately, we didn't do it that way on purpose, but everybody, when we'd say, they said, what's her name? We'd say it, and they'd go, Megan? And so we'd say it real slow, Reagan. Ray again. It's like, okay, Ray again. And she's, I don't know if that's lived up to, or she's been pulled down by that. She is a lot like her daddy. But so we started doing that, and in September, and then May of so it's September of 11, May of 2012, I ran my first 5K, Memorial Day run in Lubbock, and then I hurt my back. A friend of mine had a motorcycle wreck. He was riding my bike, totaled it out, and anyway, when we were low in it, I had back trouble for a long time, but I blew out the disc between 4 and 5, ruptured it, and I ended up by like that second week of June, I couldn't walk. That door's 10 feet away. I couldn't walk 10 feet. I couldn't sit for more than just a second. I couldn't stand. About all I could do is lay in a fetal position on my right side, or I could lay flat on my back and have my legs up. And I wound up in a wheelchair, being pushed around, and like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I don't want back surgery. So we did all kinds of therapy and decompression, and they do these shots in your spine, and I'm sleeping about 2.5 hours a night because it just hurts so bad. I'd wake up just excruciating pain. My poor wife, she'd get up and massage my back, and we'd do all this stuff, and it's just I gotta have sleep, man, and I can't sleep, and so we keep going to the doctor and pain management. And the last time we went for a prescription, they said they gave me a muscle relaxer and a painkiller. And when my wife Sonia went to get it filled, the pharmacist said he can't have both of these. She said, "What do you mean?" She said, "He can't have these at the same time." She said, "Well, I just left the doctor. That's what he prescribed." He said, "Well, he won't be able to function. It'll just knock him out." She said, "Well, that's what we're after. He's got to rest. He can't sleep." And so that first night, I got about 4 hours, and is right back to it. And then that weirdness of it's like I felt like I was over here kind of watching myself out of my head with it. So I quit taking those. I go back and they're like, "How's that working?" I said, "It's not." "What do you mean?" I said, "I quit taking it because it didn't do any good, and I felt so weird I couldn't stand that." And they were like, "Yeah, narcotics don't help with nerve pain." What are you giving somebody? This is about the most addictive thing you can have in the world. Have this; it won't help you. But so finally, I have back surgery, and October the 29th, 2012, had back surgery, and it didn't work. And so this is also one of those, you find out what you're made of. And so go back to the doctor. I still have swelling where they did the surgery, and I have all the pain. My foot's dragging. I can walk some now, but so he said, "We're going to have to do it again." And I said, He said, "What do you mean?" And so I won't go through the whole thing, but I said, "Look, either there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with me. Either you didn't do a good job, and I was just perfect. I did exactly what you told me to do in recovery. I mean, I did exactly. And so I'm just going to learn to live with it." He said, "I don't think you can do that." And in my mind, I'm like, "No, this is it." So this is one of those, if you could go back, you said, what would you tell your teenage self? This is it. You can. You can take the pain. You can figure it out. It may never be what you want again. It may not be what it was before, but you can figure it out. And so that was I'm like, I'm not doing that. I spent $30,000 on back surgery and on the same thing. I'm not doing it. I'm going to figure out how to make it. But during that, it was Reagan got hurt in basketball. And I believe in chiropractic, but I don't like those that really twist you and pop. And that's actually what finished my back off the guy. I mean, I'm laying there trying to get some relief. And when he does it, I come off the table. I'm like, you got to fix that. And he said, I can't. And so that's what finished me off. And so I remembered there was this kid that first summer when I started going to the Mission and Ministry Training School. I got to go teach at this camp. It was called Sky Ridge. It's over by Cloudcroft, New Mexico. And there was this kid. He was 9 years old when I go to camp. So you talk about looking back and going, wow, God, that was cool. So I taught this kid, 9 years old to 18, and I think he even worked as a counselor for us, and he was a chiropractor, and then he'd gone off and done some training in Colorado, and he'd worked on Olympic athletes, and I thought, he's doing something different. He's a chiropractor, but he's got something different. So I got Reagan an appointment with him, and when he sees me, he comes out there. He goes, what happened to you? So I tell him my story, and obviously I can tell a story, man. That's what you're like. Come on, brother, let's go.
No.
So I tell him, and he says, I could have prevented that. And I laughed, and he said, no, really, I could have kept you from having back surgery. And I'm like, what? Too late now? And he said, no, it's not. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you're not fixed. So this is actually before the doctor tells me I need to do it again. And I said, what do you mean I'm not fixed? He said, I can tell by the way you sit, stand, and walk, the surgery didn't work. And my old heart sank. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so, we go through the deal. He says, you heal up from the surgery and I'll start working on you. And so the first time I went to see him was the day before. The doctor put me back in therapy and I'd done all that. And so the day before I go on Wednesday to see, this guy's name's Dr. Carey in Lubbock. I go to see him and he works on me. And I left and I'm like, I don't have the pain in my leg anymore. I think I'm better. Is this mind over matter or am I really better? And so I go to the doctor, the neurosurgeon the next day, and he says, I can't believe this. I've never seen anybody have that kind of results from physical therapy. I'm like, oh, it wasn't physical therapy, man. God sent me somebody. So I started going to this guy. And in fact, that's really why my daughter, the oldest one, wanted physical therapy, be a physical therapist so she can do the same kind of treatment. Mm-hmm. And, I guess a lot of Seminole folks that listen to you, Todd Moore's learned to do this kind of treatment. So he's worked on me several times. And so that was, they said, you'll never run again. I love motorcycles. Had a couple of Harleys at the time. Said, you'll never ride a motorcycle again. You won't be able to, and they had all this list. You'll never be able to do this, never be able to do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I will. And so that became my challenge is I'm going to run that same 5K. That was my first 5K. That was a big deal then. I'm going to run the same 5K next year, and I'm going to run it faster. And so it was about 2.5 months ago was the anniversary of my first run after that. And so I literally ran. We lived on a cul-de-sac, and I ran to the end of it, and it was it was painful and terrible. But started running again for the first time, and so ran that 5K on Memorial Day of 2013 and did beat it. And it's just been that journey of what are you capable of? What's inside of you? And had lots of talks with God. It's even now, I ran that New York City Marathon, and I'm coming down there. You end at Central Park. So you come down the east side of it, and I'm coming down the east side of it, and I'm just crying. And I'm just like, I can't believe God brought me this far. Something they said would be impossible. And I guess part of it also was, my wife had sent me this picture of me in a wheelchair and in New York City. And she said, just think, next time you're in New York City, you were in a wheelchair last time, and next time you're going to be finishing the marathon. It is just this God's victory, He's overcomes. And that makes sense, man.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You got to do this, and you do it, it still doesn't work. And God says, I got you. I prepared this. I put this guy in your life. Here you go. I've trained him. And I just absolutely believe that God worked through him. And the biggest deal is he just says, God made you this way. That's not what I'm doing. God did it. I didn't make something up. It's in your body. We're just activating it in your body. And so you look back and you just go, how long did God think about that? It's a nanosecond for him, but it takes us all these thousands of years for somebody to figure out if you touch this point and this point on the body, it reactivates that muscle and it does this, and just it's stuff that when I tell people about it, I'm like, I feel like a snake oil salesman. That doesn't make any sense. People know about it are like, that's crazy. You say anything you want to. I just know where I was and I know where I am. And I still have pain. Yeah, every day of my life, I still hurt. Who cares? I mean, I'm. What I said was 1,062 days of a run streak. One of these days I will figure out to stop riding motorcycles, because I did a run streak 189 days and had a motorcycle wreck, so I had to take 15 or 16 days off. But it's like, just wow that God does it. And so when some days are harder runs, but I'm still running, and it's by the grace of God. And I'll just never be able to thank Him enough. And that lesson was probably that next shift. We talked about those big ones, is to say, you can, by the grace and the strength, the power of God, you can overcome. Somebody, a friend of mine says, you're not a very good loser. I said, you know what? My Lord's never lost.
Yeah.
He lost once. It looked like everybody thought he lost on the cross, but he won. He's a winner. Revelation says he comes out riding a horse. He's a conqueror, bent on conquest. And so, yeah, I like to win. Because I read the end of the book and God wins. And I will be on his team, so I want to win. And, I do think I could get a little carried away with that. Not everything's a competition, but I like to win.
Yeah.
And God's given me some really cool victories. So.
Man, heck yeah, man. That's, wow. Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a loss for words right now. Just hearing everything. Everything you said spoke to me like deep within me. Like, man, I'm not an emotional guy, and I'm trying not to even cry right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I tell people. I don't think I'm extraordinary in any way. I don't think there's anything special about Ray Young, but I do want to be inspirational.
Yes.
I do want people to look at me and go, if that old dude, I get to do some stuff with, football and basketball teams. We do the Chiefs program and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, if God can do this with an old dude, I hated running. I didn't want to be a runner. I didn't want to, if he can do that with me, what can he do with you? Mm-hmm. What can he do? You don't know. You don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what God's capable of through you. But so I don't think I'm extraordinary at all. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I think I'm probably average at best. It's just, but that's where we are. You're right there. I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
But I hope I'm a guy in God's hands and that He's using me, and I believe He is. I think I get to teach all over the world. We're waiting on Canada to open back up, and I'm like, how did these people in Canada hear about Ray Young in Seminole, Texas? What's that? I teach in Singapore and Thailand and South Africa and, all over Central and South America, and I'm thinking, how do I get those opportunities? Well, it's not because I'm great. It's not because, it's not because I'm worldwide famous, but you try to be faithful, not famous. And,
oh, wow.
And so I think God gives that to you. Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Amen. Yeah.
And so what's He open up? And then that's the other part for me. I have a hard time saying no. It's like, oh, well, I don't really have time, but yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think He gives us those opportunities, and if it is from Him, I want to use it and be faithful in it. So.
Yes, sir. Man. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to end. I'm gonna ask some more questions.
Lay it on, man. I'll open up the Bible and we just talk about it for about 6-7 hours.
I don't want to end. Like what gets you, like, say, motivated running? When you're running, how is your mindset? Do you feel just free, like to keep running every single day? Like I know you had just told your testimony about keep just pushing and pushing and pushing, but like, what is your mindset after that? Like when you run, do you just feel like, wow, just relieved?
I do. It is a constant. It's constant gratitude. I mean, I know there are a lot of people who would love to run and can't, and I know where I was and where I am, and so I'm grateful for that. It is this. I wonder sometimes if I've got an unhealthy drive to excel. I have a hard time being content. And I think that's. I think it's. There are some other places in the world that are like this, but I think our culture breeds us to have discontentment with everything that we should be content in. and then the one thing we shouldn't be content in, our pursuit of God, we're content in. I always want more. I want bigger. I want better. I want newer. And so every run, it's been one of the things you're talking about, Kyle. He's helped me a lot because I feel like I got to run the hardest I can every single run, every single day, and I've got to push it, and I've got to be better, and I've got to be faster, and I've got to be stronger, I've got to run further. And he's like, no, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You got to slow down. You got to get that. You got to do this. And so it's been a constant struggle. I mean, the whole run today, this morning, I cranked out 7 miles, and I'm like, I got to slow down. And so part of it is that. There's, going back to Ecclesiastes, there's this really cool section at the end of chapter 5. It's over here in my Bible while I was doing that. On the right-hand side, it says that, I've learned there's nothing better for a man than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in the things God's given him to do. And so he talks about that, and I think it's a perspective change that I think believers really got to grab hold of. I mean, you look around and this is a kind of a tough time right now for economy, and a lot of people are afraid about that. But if you just go anywhere else in the world, you go, we are ridiculously, I don't even know if it's blessed, because sometimes you can be so blessed that it becomes a problem. But we got way too much, and even when it's hard, most of the time it's still pretty easy, and all of that. And it's that point of, it's not in the having. The having doesn't give you joy. He says there at the end of chapter 5 that God enables a man to enjoy those things. That's the gift of God. And so if you're not enjoying your life, if I'm not enjoying my life, what that means is I'm not receiving this gift of God because I'm not pursuing Him. And so if I'm not enjoying it, then there's something wrong, because it's a gift of God to enjoy it. It's not the having, it's the enjoying it. And if I don't enjoy it, and so sometimes, like getting ready for that New York City Marathon, I'm trying to bump my mileage up, and it's just this grind. It's I have to do this. I've got a training schedule. I got to stay on. And it got to be a grind, and I really struggled. And then somebody said, you ought to read this book. And I said, is it on Audible? I'll listen to it. And so I'm listening to it as I was driving a bunch. And they talked about this. It's called the Tarahumara tribe of, they're natives in Mexico. And then the guy noticed that they're always smiling. They're running and smiling. They're enjoying it. And I thought, I enjoy running. It's a gift. And so I literally just did that one little deal. I just reminded myself over and over, smile, you enjoy this, you love this. And all of a sudden what became this burden is, it's a joy. And just think about how that applies to so much in our lives. Oh, yeah. I mean, I try to remember it all the time. I say, well, I don't got to, I get to. Well, I have to get ready for that. I don't have to. It's even in ministry. People talk about. Somebody said the other day, "Can we do this on a Monday?" Oh, wait. You're a minister. That's your worst day of the week. And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, you're so exhausted from Sunday." And no, I'm not. They said, "You're not? Don't you teach and preach?" And I said, "Yeah, but that's not work, man. The work's the other stuff. That is fun. It's like, here's what God said." And so, communicating the Word of God to the people of God, it's exhilarating. But sometimes I'm like, well, I have to do that. I don't have to. I get to. Yes, so I got to go to work. Hey, there's some folks who'd love to trade places because they don't have work. Well, I got a clean house. Well, there are a lot of people who'd love to have a house to clean. Well, I need to I got to wash my car. There are a lot of people who love to wash a car. Whatever it is, it's a blessing if you receive it that way. Or it's a burden if you don't. And so the gift of God, He enables us to enjoy it. And if we're not enjoying it, it means I'm not receiving the gift. I'm not receiving it as from Him. Because if I give you a gift and you're like, whatever. You didn't put any value in me or it. But if I value Him, then I value what He gives, because what do I know? James chapter 1 says, every good thing, every perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights, with whom there's no shifting shadow. So if it's good and it's in my life, I don't have any doubt where it came from. God did that. Yeah. And if God did that, if God says, hey, boy, you need this? I say, all right, thank you. What do I need it for? I don't even have to know. He just said I need it, so I want it. All right, I'll receive it. And I think that's the biggest thing is, and so this is a gift, and then just the gratitude of doing it, and a drive to improve. Yeah. I always have to have a goal out there. It's one of the things I love about the run streak is, before I was doing it, it's like, am I going to run today? What Friday morning, it's 28 mile an hour wind or 25, whatever it was. And I'm like, man, but I'm going to run today, so it doesn't matter. It's raining. It snowed. I'm going to do it today. And so the discipline, they're just saying, and this is the discipline that says, I'm not going to lie to myself. I think that's a big one. You know, if you grab hold of that and think about it, if you say you're going to do something, if you lie to yourself, you'll lie to anybody else.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, if you see somebody who says they're going to do something and they lie to themselves, whatever anybody else, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it. If I hear you do that, I know there's a struggle, so I'm not going to judge it. Mm-hmm. I know it's hard, but you can't rely on you. And if you can't rely on you, I don't think I can rely on you. And so if I say I'm going to do it, that's what I have to do. I'm going to do it. And so the being consistent with myself, and then I want to improve. So the discipline to say I'm going to do it no matter what. Between midnight and midnight, I'm going to run. And then if you're going to do it, I think a guy named Brian Tracy wrote this book called Eat the Frog First. And this is basically, I was like, that's the weirdest title ever. But his premise is this. If I told you that by 3:12, 24 hours from right now, 3:12 tomorrow, you've got to eat a frog. Most people would go, and you'd put it off and you'd hate it and you'd be like, this is terrible. And so you'd be in the misery the whole time and you'd eat it at the last second. So what you did is made 24 hours rough because you put off what you knew you were going to do. Mm-hmm. So if you got to eat a frog, do it right now. Do it as soon as possible. If there's something you don't want to do, but you know you're going to do it or you got to do it, just do it now. Now, if you work on that, that'll be life-changing. It's like, if I'm going to do it anyway, just do it. And then if you also go to the opportunity, you know, I talk a lot about before it's too late. You know, when my kids are hitting their senior year, I'm like, I don't think I've done a good enough job. I've not raised them well enough. They're not ready to be out on their own. I got 8 months, 9 months. What am I going to do? And so, you know, between Caitlin and Reagan, I think I was better father for Reagan because I learned those lessons. And it's like, here. And then she gets to be a senior. I'm thinking, still not done a good enough job. And there's some opportunities that just come here. And once that time's gone, and you don't know it beforehand, you know. Mm. So you better do it. If you got the opportunity now, do it now.
Do it now.
You know, so God put somebody on your heart. You need to call, you need to check on them, you need to bless them. You better do it now. You know, this opportunity may never come around again.
Yes, sir.
And so I think it's important to let's do that. And so that's part of it too. It's like, why you run, you know, 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning? Why you do that? Because I may not make it till the night, and I want to get it in, you know. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow. You know. Man, powerful.
Yeah. God's
powerful.
Good.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Man, I'm excited. I was so excited for you to come up here.
Thanks. It's been an honor. I appreciate the opportunity.
Man, yes, sir. If somebody wanted to, like, you have social media, you said, they want to keep up with you and, you know, see what you're doing in your life. Where can they find you at? Instagram, social.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. LinkedIn, Facebook. My Instagram is the number 4 RAY, the number 2, and then I think I'm Ray Young 2. That's my dad was named Ray Young too, as well, so I'm the second. I tell everybody, you know, they got the first one, second one's new and improved. I hope that's true. It better be true. I worked hard on that, but yeah. So, and I don't have a clue. I think I'm just Ray Young on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm not a TikToker because, man, if they saw me dancing, they would shut down TikTok. You know, he's the world's worst golfer. He's preached the world's worst sermon, and he is the world's worst dancer. If you know, some people want to argue about whether dance is a sin or not. If they saw me try it, they'd say that's got to be a sin because that's awful. So, but yeah, 4A2 and I think Ray Young 2, or I don't really know. I bet if you Google Ray Young, you'll see my smiling face.
There you go. All right. Yeah, and you can find me, of course, on No Holds. It's Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on there. Go ahead and follow me and subscribe. I'm also on YouTube and Anchor. So subscribe here. Follow Ray Young, man. He's got some powerful, man, just messages, just little messages throughout this whole podcast. Wow, like it blessed me tremendously. Like seriously, like thank you.
My honor.
Thank you for being here. I'm honored. I'm very honored, and man, I look forward to maybe seeing you out more, or maybe even running. I'm gonna try to go.
All right, man.
I know.
Hey, every Friday morning, 5:30 at the Westside Church parking lot, we got a little 5K. You can run, you can walk, but it's been growing. Friday was the second week. But it's just, it's just something to do.
Yeah.
And, I think it is important that God gave us this gift of a body. And the better we take care of it, the better we are to do it. So
Yes,
we'd love
sir.
for you to join us there.
Yeah,
So
I know.
we'll see you.
I'm gonna try.
No, hey,
no.
wait, we're not done yet. There is no such thing as try.
Let's
Yoda
try it.
said either do or do not.
I work Friday. Well, no, I do have. I'm
God
off.
went and removed her excuse.
Okay, it is very hard for me to run. I know Kyle is trying to get me to run.
Yeah.
My wife is trying to get me to run, and
It's for the love of it, man.
it is.
Or you can
to
walk.
me, it's hard to get
Yeah.
up and just.
Hey, I
run.
understand.
But
It's,
I'd rather just ride my bike. How about I just
you
ride
can
my
do,
bike?
yeah.
I'll do that.
Just show up and ride around. You can be our, you can be our light and
there
look
you go.
out.
There we go. I'll just play some music, ride my bike, and.
All
there we
right. That'll be a good time.
But awesome, man. I appreciate you again. Thank you,
You
sir.
bet.
And until next time, we are out. Peace. There we go.